Homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm, or welcome back. I am out here in my big garden planting potatoes today, and I thought I would bring you along and show you a couple of things that I'm doing. Today is the 28th of April. It's about 2 weeks later than I should have gotten these in. I'm not particularly worried about it because we have a long growing season here, and these are going to be done well before we get a frost, so it isn't that big of a deal to get them in late. And they do like a little bit of a warmer soil. I don't have to worry about it frosting and nipping back the leaves, which often happens when you plant your potatoes a little bit early. You get a frost as they start to come up and it fries the stuff that's above ground, and then they have to recover from that. And so it's no big deal for me to put these in a little bit late. I wanted to show you this partly because these are potatoes that I saved from the previous year. So these are last year's potatoes. I specifically set them aside in the fall. I wanted potatoes that were about the size of an egg, or that obviously had some green on them. You can see this one has got green. And so I wasn't gonna eat that one because it was a lot of green. And so I just set it aside as something to plant. Replanting your potatoes from the previous year works, but they do accumulate virus over time. And as they accumulate that virus, it doesn't necessarily mean they get sick or they look bad. It's that the crop gets smaller and smaller over the years. And so you can plant stuff from the previous year's crop and still get a crop. But if you keep doing that, eventually what you're gonna have is some really small potatoes where you're not getting much. So that is the primary reason why you're not supposed to plant the previous year's crop, unless you've got a known disease issue, in which case you should stop. What I've got out here, this is a 100-foot row. I'm not planting an entire 100 feet. I'm guessing this is probably about 60 feet, give or take. And you can see I'm planting them about a foot apart, which is kind of standard for potatoes. And then I'm just gonna plant them about 4 inches deep. We tilled this soil yesterday, and then it got watered in last night. So it's nice and soft. I'm just gonna plant them 4 inches deep. And then we have a whole bunch of leaves that we banked from last year. And so I'm gonna use that to cover as mulch as they start to emerge. And hopefully we'll have a nice crop this year. I thought it would be interesting to show you guys, when they talk about potatoes storing well, one of the things that means is they don't sprout super early in storage. And so I thought it would be interesting to just do a quick comparison of like how long some of these sprouts are on these potatoes. They were all harvested at the same time, and they've all been stored in these same conditions. And some of them you can see have got sprouts on them that are well over a foot long, and some of them are much more compact. That's a pretty good indication, at least as far as I know in terms of potato biology. This is a pretty good indication that these are better storers, the ones that have shorter, smaller sprouts, stored better for a longer period of time before they started sprouting. And so they have less length on the sprouts. That could be just a variety of potato difference in terms of how they actually grow. I don't know, so don't quote me on that. But generally, my experience is the ones that have super long sprouts on them are the ones that sprouted first. And so therefore, they're the ones that are not that great in terms of long-term storage. What I'm gonna do as I plant these, I'm gonna put a stake in the ground where the variety changes. I'm also gonna put a flower in the ground, so I've got a little bit of space for, you know, a snapdragon or something in here just for fun to show the change in varieties. And then I'm gonna write the name of the variety on this flag, and that's gonna go next to the stake. And then I usually actually write it on a plastic tag that I stick down in the ground right next to it as well. And then I put it on my phone. So I'm trying really hard to keep track of the different kinds that are out here, and it's very easy to lose track of that. And so I write it down with a lot of redundancy so that I don't lose track of what I planted where. This one is Keuka Gold, and fairly good in terms of the length of the sprouts. Some length on them. I would say this is probably, if we were going with small, medium, large in terms of the length of the sprouts, this one is about a medium. This one is called Smilin' Eyes, and I believe it's related to Yukon Gold. And this has nice little short sprouts, so this one held for a good long time. This one I would call that short. This one I would call medium again. And this is Elba. And Elba was a very productive variety for me last year, and so I saved quite a few of these because I really like them as a just good productive variety. This one is Pinto. This is a fingerling type, although I've had these get quite large, so not necessarily big fingerling. I would call this short. This one has held well. Here we have Kennebec. Kennebec is a classic potato for production, and I would say this is probably medium in terms of length of sprout. There's a really good example of a green one that I saved and put aside just because of all the green that was on there. This one is blue gold, and I would say these are very, very long. You can see how crazy long these are. So my experience with purple potatoes across the board, whether they're purple on the inside or just purple on the outside, is they do not store well. They are one of the first things to sprout in my storage every year, followed by the red potatoes. You notice I don't have any red potatoes out here. It's because I've just given up. I don't like them enough to warrant growing them because they sprout so early in storage. This one is Yukon Gem, so not Yukon Gold, but Yukon Gem. Supposed to be a slightly better variety for a variety of reasons, and I would say these are long as well, like super long, probably longer than the purple actually. So these probably had the least amount of storage and sprouted the earliest of everything I have out here. So that's one of my big frustrations with potato companies when they sell you seed potatoes, is they might mention storage, but they never really give you good information on what that means. And they say a variety is early, medium, or late in terms of how soon it matures, but they don't really give you a good idea of what that means for storage time. And you know, most of us are growing potatoes because we want to use them as a food security through the winter and into the spring. And it would be very nice to know when something actually stores well under just typical conditions. My conditions are, I have a pantry in my garage, and that pantry is cool in the winter, but not freezing. And then it gets warmer in the summer, but not as hot as outside. So not ideal storage conditions. So I'm gonna plant these long, and people ask this all the time on garden groups, like, what am I supposed to do with this? Do I cut it off? Do I keep it? And I'll show you what I do. So I'm just gonna make a little hole here to put this potato in. You don't want them too deep. And then I am literally just gonna spiral this around in a circle. It doesn't have to be straight. It knows which way the sun is. It knows which way up is. And so that's how I'm gonna plant that. Easy peasy. And there you go. One down, probably 50 or 60 to go. Here's a little snapshot of last year's potato harvest. Most of these potatoes at this point have been either pressure canned or blanched and frozen, and I have videos on both of those things. So looking forward to 2024's great potato harvest. Hopefully it will be as good as it was last year. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment, and share. I have new content coming out every week.